Hey guys. So yeah, first of all, thank you for being here, and it's always fun to come back to Cluj. As Philip said, we'll talk about chatbots and voice assistants and all this kind of stuff. And the number one thing I want you to take from here is really, if you should actually do that, if you should actually implement these kind of technologies, when you should do it, and more importantly, what are the real opportunities for you as developers, as entrepreneurs, to take these technologies and really go out there and win the game. So, for years and years, we've been fascinated about this concept of like a smart, intelligent computer we can actually freely talk to. From the starter computer to the famous HAL from Odyssey in Space, to the more recent Her movie, the really emotional computer in the movie. It's been something that's been on our mind, and Hollywood has been pushing for us again and again. But in recent years, and until recently, it seems that it's really everything we can read and hear about. Like, I've seen all these headlines for the past 2 years about the fact that everything is going to become voice. Everything is going to become chatbots. We will never use apps ever again. It will be just like Messenger and Skype and Slack and stuff like that. But after all this, and on top of that, actually, Google, Amazon, IBM, Apple, they all spend billions and billions of dollars into building their own voice assistants, into building their smart speakers. But with all this hype and all this money, I would guess that most of the experience that most of us get actually looks a lot more like this. So what's going on here? Like, why we have such a big difference between this kind of stuff? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think the main one, and the one I want to talk about right now, is this one. Although, again, Hollywood kind of hyped the fact that, we have this new era of AI and we can, talk freely to the computers. In reality, 99% of chatbots that you see outside are not really AI. Yes, maybe they're using some NLP to kind of understand the language or understand what you're writing, but they're really far from being this. They're a lot closer to just being this, which is just a basic workflow of, if a customer will ask me this, please answer this. And if you will answer this, do this. And if you will say this, do this. It's a really simple workflow any of us could have written, long time ago. So, and by the way, it's fine. Because almost every new technology that comes to market, from VR to 3D printing to a lot of others, goes through the same hype loop. At first, startups comes out and say, we're going to change the world, AI is here, everything is going to be different. The media catch this up and start to talk and hype this up. And our expectation gets so high, and then we start using it, and it's just not there. The technology is just not there yet. So we all start to say, you know what, that's just not going to work. Voice assistant will never work. We're far, far from it. And everyone starts to think that, it's like we're 20 years from here. Like, we should not look at it. I can't tell you how many times in Silicon Valley in the last few weeks or a few months, I heard investors saying, I will never, ever invest in another chatbot ever again. I don't want to see, if I see the word AI in a pitch, I'm just not going to stop listening. And a lot of entrepreneurs, stopped looking at these technologies because of that. Because we all feel, this technology is just not, it's never going to happen. But you know what? If you look at a hype loop and you look at this in any other technology, the really smart people are the ones who actually start to invest in this stuff just about here, when everyone else think technology is failing us. Because they understand that this is the time that technology is not really failing us, it just takes a bit more time. And this is the time that there's less competition, less noise, less competition on talent, on hiring developers to help you. This is the time you should actually start to invest. Because most of the time, this hype loop doesn't take 20 years. It just takes another 2 years or 3 years. And building a good startup, building a good product takes time. So if you start it right now, you'll actually get to your peak where the technology will be in the peak. And you'll be on top of your game and on top of the market. And if you look at the underlying process, underlying trends, under all this hype we see, you'll see what I'm talking about. First of all, it's AI, well, I call it AI for the masses. So, I'm a coder. I've been coding since I was a kid. But I'm not good in math. I skipped most of my classes in high school. I will never be able to write a full ML algorithm by myself. There's just no way. But these days, I don't need to do it. Because these days, all the big companies from Google to Amazon, and et cetera, they're starting to do what I call AI as SDK, or AI as a service. You don't really need to understand how ML actually works. You just need to take it as a service. You don't have to build your own huge cloud infrastructure. Just use TensorFlow or TensorFlow Lite, and there's a bunch of SDKs and platforms that come out. The second thing is data as a commodity. So I used to have a data analytic company back in 2006, 2007, and back then the fight was about who actually have the most data. If you had the most data about users, you'll be able to do behavioral targeting and personalization and all this kind of stuff. These days, data is commodity. Everyone has data. Yes, Facebook and Google probably has more data than anyone else, but still, it's really easy to buy data about anyone. I can probably buy data about anyone here in the room and understand exactly your email, your preferences, where you've done vacation, who are your friends, and etc. There's just way too many companies who have this data and just selling it and sharing it. Why it's important for all this? Because if we have data, we can start to do much better AI, much better personalization. We can actually start to build all these services, the computer and the assistant that actually helps you. The computer really needs to know you in order to be able to do that. And of course, underneath this comes all the sensors. So the fact that right now we have much better cameras in phones, in our home, in the smart speakers, all this kind of stuff, it allows us, again, to get more data about the surrounding of people and then use this data to build a smart assistant and a smart bots and stuff like that. I don't know how many of you use AirPods, but the Apple AirPods, they're a terrific product, and they really kind of play into this. And again, there's like the one from Google right now and from Beats and, and Boss and et cetera, because it allows everyone to just have a small headset, tiny headset that you can walk with all day long. And in theory, again, talk to Siri, talk to Google, or talk to your own bot. It's not something that I have to be close to a certain speaker or be at home or wear some sort of big headset and stuff like that. So, and you know what? One more thing I want to talk about this is I kind of call it, the bot who rules them all, or the master of bots. So think about the starter computer. In the starter computer, you don't tell him, hey, Star Trek, right? Or I don't remember actually what's the name of the computer there, but hey, computer, can you please look for information at an app that I installed on you for this and this and this? You just tell him, I want this, and he knows what to do. Today, if I need to go to Messenger, open Messenger, look for the United app, click United Airlines app, open the United Airlines app, write my question, and get an answer, I can just open the United app directly, and it will be faster and easier. But the moment Siri, Google, and the rest of this stuff will be smart enough for me to just say something, and they know to take my query and smartly route it to the right bot, or even route it to multiple bots, get answers from both of them, merge it together and give me one coherent answer, that's where bots will become really, really important. And more important for you, they'll become the new API. If you have a service and you want this service to be exposed to users, you just have to have some sort of a chatbot or a voice bot above that, because that's the way the next OSs, Siri, Google, etc., will actually interact with you, and not through HTTP requests like it used to be, so far. So if I somehow manage to kind of convince you that it's at least something you need to look at, and it's a pretty good time to look at this kind of stuff, let's see what you actually need to do in order to do it in a smart way. Like, what do you need to do in order to build a really good bot? And again, when I talk about bot, it can be text and it can be voice. It doesn't really matter right now. So the first thing is, just use it wisely. Like, think about, the Yelp example is great. I don't know how many bots I've seen in the last 2 years that allows you, to see the best restaurants around you right now and the best bars around you right now. But think about it. If I need to write, what are the best Italian restaurants around me, and then I get a voice that says, well, you have this restaurant and this restaurant and this restaurant and this restaurant. After the second one, I don't have any clue what he's talking about. I don't remember what he said before. It's so much easier to just see a list in Yelp and see the ratings and see the location and map. Bots are not good for everything. We need to use them just for stuff where they actually make the process easier. User interface and apps are still going to be here, and a lot of the time, they're just a better way to communicate. The second thing is, if we look about voice, we need to understand it's such a different user experience and user interface to interact with. The first one is discovery. How many of you actually have a Google Home or any of the smart speakers, Alexa? I'm sure that you'll agree with me, and if not, you can definitely say that. But I get, I have the two of them, and every week I get an email of you can tell to Alexa this, 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 and this, and then read it and say, oh, this is really cool. And the next day, I don't remember what I can actually tell Alexa. And then, again, because still, understanding of language is not perfect, so you try to say something to Alexa once, twice, it fails, and then you say, no, you know what, that's it. I don't know what to ask her. I don't know what she knows how to do. No one still solved the way of discovery. And even if you have the best, almost amazing bot that you can ask him 20 different questions, the question is, how do you make your users used to and remember what are these 20 questions? What you can actually do with them? The second thing is the frustration loop. My mother, she doesn't hear well. And as much as I want to be really nice and, and very, empathetic to her, talking to her can be very frustrating for me sometimes because I say something, it's what? And I say something what? And I need to repeat myself 10 times every time. It's it's really annoying. And and unfortunately, it's still like this with voice bots. You tell something to Siri, and she doesn't understand you, and you say it again, and she tried to send it to a different contact. So you cancel it and say it the third time. There's not going to be fourth time. If the frustration loop, if you have bugs in the user interface, it's fine. You'll show an error message, and the user will try it again, and that's it. With voice, after a couple of times, they'll just say, "Fuck, it doesn't work. I'm not going to use it ever again." The third one is kind of what I call big actions require big trust. I don't know if you've seen this, but Walmart back in the US just said that you will be able right now, supposedly it's live, I haven't tried it, but you're supposed to be able to buy stuff from Walmart directly using a Google Assistant. Now, honestly, I want to see how many people in this room are willing to tell a voice assistant, please buy me Sony TV on Walmart, or buy me this, and this, and expect or trust that it will understand exactly which product you wanted. It will make the payment, the right way, and you'll just pay for it and hope that in the shipment you'll actually get the product you want. Certain actions require a lot of trust, and if you'll just put your voice bot out there and not build this trust with the users first, they're just not going to use it. And it doesn't matter if this feature is really, really cool. And again, you're doing e-commerce and voice sounds really, really cool. But again, in reality, we still don't have this trust with most of the bots. The last thing what I want to talk here is the gap problem. So I'll give you an example. So we launched a new website a few weeks ago, and I got messages from users that we had a bug in the registration form, and for some users they clicked register and nothing happened a few times. Now we could have looked at this and say, we have a problem, we have frustrating users, I don't know what to do, but we chose to look at this and say this is an opportunity, because the user who decided to talk to me directly just to tell me that something is wrong is a user who really wants my product, who really care about my product. So, we emailed them, each one of these users personally, and, told them, hey, I'm sorry, I'm the co-founder of this, and this. Really sorry that happened. Would love to help, fix this. Let me, make up for you. And then we started a conversation. And we can convert a frustrated user to be our heroes, the users who will talk about how cool, our company and product is. When you use bots, you put something between you and your users. And as much as it can be more efficient and more, price, good for your cost, or cut costs and stuff like that, you lose something. Zappos built themselves because they had amazing customer service. Such a customer service that, robots can do. You need to have a human. So I'm not saying, of course, don't use bots ever. I'm just saying, think about it and make sure that you do a good mix of sometimes still you need humans to talk with your customers. The third thing, which is kind of related, is it's emotion. We don't expect a website to show any emotion for us. But we all wired for connection. We all wired to feel emotion from people. And when something talks to us, even if we know it's a robot, we know it's a speaker, we know there's no one behind it, our mind automatically expects to get the same reaction we get when we talk with people, because that's what we've been doing for years and years and years. That's how we wired. So, not to mention that, some robot or some bots you'll write sometimes say stuff that is not that fun. Your flight got canceled. You got stuck here. Your bank account just lost something. Your stock value went down, whatever. There's some things that you don't want to say in a very robotic way. You want to show some empathy. And if you'll do that, you'll also create a much stronger connection with the user. Now, of course, I'm not sure how to exactly do it. It's really, really hard. But there's a lot of startups that try to solve it. And even Amazon, if you look at Lex, which is one of the SDKs for voice assistant that Amazon gives you for free, they actually added a few months ago ability to change how the voice is used, whether it's more happy, angry, sad. You can actually try to play with it whenever you say the right thing or the different things for the users. Another thing, you can't really see it from here, but I'm sure you'll have access to the presentation, but I would encourage you to check a startup called Layerbird.ai. What they do is insanely creepy and insanely cool. You can record yourself saying sentences, random sentences that they show you, 30 times, 50 times. They recommend a minimum of 30. They recommend more than 100 if you can. And then they digitalize your voice. And now you can write anything you want, and it's going to speak to you in your own voice. It's insanely accurate. Like, it's creepy accurate. Like, I played it to my girlfriend, and it was really, really creepy. She was like, oh my God, now that's what we're going to do whenever you travel and you don't have energy to talk. But it's a very early stage technology. But again, think about the fact that you're building something to be in the market for a year or two from now. In a year or two from now, this is going to be a much more common technology. And you'll be able to personalize voices, whether you talk with a kid or an old person or different personalities of your users and stuff like that. Think about international. It's almost impossible to scale a business these days without actually going international and getting users not just from your own country or your own region. Now, getting someone who doesn't know English that well to understand your user interface and use it, that's not that hard, even if the interface is in English. But getting someone to be able to write or talk in an accent that the bot will actually understand in a language that is not fluent in is almost impossible. So again, if you want international users, you need to figure out how you actually recognize different accents, different voices, different languages, or figure out how to combine different user interfaces. Do a user interface for international users and the bot and the voice just for English speaking or Spanish speaking or Romanian speaking, whatever you actually writing. I will also encourage you to look again at Skype auto translation. So Skype, it's listed in the US, I'm not sure if it's open all around the world, have a really kind of like beta feature that allows me to talk in English and the other person will hear it in Chinese or in Spanish. It's kind of like the auto translator of, again, Star Trek. Very, very, very much in beta, very not perfect yet. But again, if it's already in beta right now, in 2 years from now, it's probably going to be so much better. So this is the kind of stuff that we can look at other startups, other SDKs, and kind of incorporate them early into our own model. And the last thing here is track and optimize. So again, I'll bet that most entrepreneurs out here will never, go live with a website without putting Google Analytics on it. But still, so many companies go out with a chatbot, and they don't really track what the hell is going on inside. It's the same like any other service. You have to understand where the user's stuck, what are you actually asking, what's the main flow of your graph of interactions, what kind of words he says that the computer didn't really answer well. When did you, or should you, move him from an automatic bot to an actual human who will talk to him or user interface or something like that. Now, there's not a lot of analytics solutions out there, but there's definitely a few that are focused on bots. And actually, this morning, just a few hours ago, Google released publicly their own bot analytics platform. Really, really cool. Looks pretty amazing. It was released today, so of course I haven't used it personally, but it looks really, really cool. And I highly recommend you check it out. And again, also always remember that there's certain times that you just want to escalate to a human. Like if the customer try to ask you a few things and you understand when you think the computer just not going to answer well enough, just escalate it to a human. It's fine. We should not try to replace 100% of our human interaction, customer service, and etc. So, last thing I kind of want to touch is where you should begin. What are the really big opportunities that I see out there? And again, this is based on my research, based on what I see in Silicon Valley, but I'm sure there's other opportunities out there. The first one, of course, and it's the obvious, customer service. Why? Because it's already a conversation. So if it's something we already converse, that's a really good candidate to kind of move into a voice or a chatbot or something like that. But on top of that, most of us hate customer service, right? No one wants to call 1-800 number and talk to someone. First of all, because most of us not used to talk over the phone anymore. And second, because most customer service sucks. Like there's very small amount of companies who have really good customer service. So this is the number one thing that customers will be happy to actually do using writing or talking with a bot or something like that, even if it's not perfect. Second, of course, is marketing, call center automations. I know a couple of startups in SF that managed to do something pretty remarkable, which is they automate the idea of making sales calls, and they managed to get their bot to talk with someone for 2 minutes without that someone understanding that he's talking with a bot and not with a human. And then based on the answer they get, they know whether they should route it to an actual salesperson to try to close the deal, or whether it's a waste of time and they should hang up here and end it here. And using this, they can really lower the cost of their call center and salespeople and stuff like that. So this is one of the things that pretty rare yet. Everyone is looking at it. No one has a really good solution. If you'll come up with, that's in the next $500 million idea for sure. A couple of other markets to look at is the kids market. Now, why kids? Because for a lot of us, the idea of talking with something is kind of hard because it's new, like we're not used to it, and we don't trust it because we think it's going to fail. You'll tell a kid talk with a computer, he will just do it naturally. For him, he expects it to just work. For him, it's supernatural. So it's much more easy to get kids to buy into this idea and try it and test it, and they're probably also not going to get frustrated that fast because they don't expect everything to be perfect from day one. For them, it's kind of like an adventure. At the same time, look at the a market and almost no one is looking at. It's the golden age market, like the older people. So why I'm saying this? Because although, contrary to what I just said, old people definitely are not used to talk with, speakers, smart speakers and stuff like that, but a lot of them, it's hard for them to see. It's hard for them to write. It's really hard for them to use an iPhone, computer screens and stuff like that. But everyone can talk. And this is, by the way, it's a multi-billion-dollar market with almost zero competition because honestly, it's not so cool to write products for the golden age and for old people, right? We all want to write the trendy, cool stuff that goes for the young people. So there's just a huge opportunity of what you can do in order to improve the life of the older generation. Voice is the new mouse in AR, VR. I mean, how many of you ever used one of the VR? It doesn't matter which platform. So I'm sure, a lot of hands, that's cool. So I'm sure a lot of you got to this place where you watch a movie or you're playing a game and suddenly everything stopped because you got an email and the Android or whatever say, hey, you have an email. Now I have to take my headset off, take the phone out of the Google thing, go to the mail, read it, come back. Such bullshit. Voice would solve this, right? Voice is the perfect. I don't need to try to use my hands and try to catch this object. We can use voice. And again, if VR is still not completely there, in 2 or 3 years, AR is definitely going to be there. We all have seen just in the last few days the reports that Apple is going to release their AR glasses in 2020. Even if we miss by a year, we all know it's going to happen, and voice is going to be a huge, huge thing. And no one built the right SDK or interactions or how you actually combine voice and hands recognition and movement and etc. to one coherent user interface. Advertising model for voice. If I would be Google, voice would scare me as hell. Because think about it. Like, if you'll start to do all your searches and all your stuff in voice, no one wants to search for an answer and then get, their assistant says, this answer brought to you by, and 30-second radio ad. Like, that's never going to happen. But no one still built a good revenue model for voice or for chatbots. Doesn't exist. Someone will have to solve it. I don't know what. It's got to be some sort of advertising, or who knows. But it's for you to go out there and try and build it. Because again, in 2 years when the market will be up, if you have the solution, again, another $1 billion opportunity. Analytics, A/B testing, all this kind of stuff. As I said, there's not that many platforms out there. So there's still a big opportunity. And by the way, in almost any technology trend, the really big companies that come up are not just the ones who build the big product. It's the one who build all the supporting services, all these advertising services, all these analytics services, optimization, all this kind of stuff. There's a huge, huge opportunity there. Discovery we talked about, and also just data collection. Again, if everything is done by voice, how do I fill forms when I want to? How do I collect good data from a user in a way that's easy for him, and also in a way that you can trust that it happened in the right way without like repeating everything I said again and again to me and like doing it in a really kind of like cumbersome way. So, above that, I just put there a few different resources that I really recommend you to look when you get access to this presentation. The first thing is, and I always say this, just start easy. Don't try to build the most perfect bot in the world from day one. There's about 1,001 platforms out there that allows you to write a bot without one line of code. From Google to Microsoft to Amazon to like, I don't know how many startups. Start there. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be amazing, but you'll get a chance to think about the workflow you need to do. You'll get a chance to interact with some users and see how they want to interact with your bot, whether it's voice and text, it doesn't matter. Again, there's a bunch of platforms out there. After that, of course, choose the main distribution platform. Is it Slack? Is it Messenger? Is it voice? Is it the smart assistants? And again, a lot of the platforms allows you to connect to everything, but in the end of the day, it's really hard to optimize everything. So think about where your users are actually going to be and start there. And then, of course, choose your AI ML engine. As I said, all this stuff is like AI as a service. You don't need to write AI anymore. You don't need to write ML anymore. There's a bunch of them out there. A lot of them are free. And they have very different capabilities, skills, and performance. So compare, try, choose, get this into your bot. That's about it. Thank you again for being here. If you have any questions, unfortunately, I actually soft launched my startup 3 hours ago. So I'm not going to be super available for the next 24 hours, but I am going to be in Cluj for another 4 or 5 days. If I can help in any way, really don't be shy. Feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahar.